Man, making Pikmin was hard. You know what? That's it. I'm not making another IP ever again. If I ever need money, I just use that fat Italian.
Boss, I have a new IP idea. It involves children, squids, and shooting.
Children? How yin's doing? It's kind of rare for Nintendo to make a brand new IP, so whenever Splatoon first came out, everybody wanted to play it. You are an Inkling, a kid squid chimera who possesses the ability to shoot ink and traverse said ink by turning into a squid. The game takes place in Inkopolis and oh, the news! Why can't I skip this? Yes, every time you launch the game, you are forced to watch as the Squid sisters Callie and Marie announce what the maps are. But in other news, the great Zapfish is gone, causing Inkopolis to not have power, except it still does. Inkopolis is home to stores, some kind of lobby, and why is this old dude looking at me? I go to teach him a lesson, and he recruits me to the Squidbeak Splatoon. See, this is how the recruiters get you. His name is Captain Cuttlefish, and this is the campaign for Splatoon, a level-based game where you go from point A to point B in order to get a Zapfish and weaken the enemy, the Octarian army. The Octarians are exactly like the Inklings, but they're octopuses instead of squids. Within the levels, there are sunken scrolls that provide lore for the game. The lore is that turf war has been a thing since the dawn of Inklings, their anatomy, and most importantly, there was a war between the Inklings and the Octarians that the Inklings won, so they get to live on the surface. I get to the end of the first world and face the first boss, the mighty Octo Stomp, who definitely stomps me. Nothing much happens in World 2 other than playing on multiplayer maps, either fighting Octolings who behave like players, or Octo Strikers who launch a missile towards me. I get to the next boss, the Octo Nozzle, who has the worst spraying technique. World 3 has Nintendo's specialty of invisible floors and another Octo Striker. So I guess here's some more lore. Some scientist put his cat in an ice capsule, and that's why Jude is here. Now aren't you happy that you know that? The third boss is the Octo Whirl, and it's fantastic. He rolls towards you, and you need to spray enough ink to stop him. Captain Cuttlefish gets kidnapped, and I'm introduced to Agents 1 and 2. And they look fairly familiar. Nothing much else happens other than another Octo Striker. World 4 boss was the Octo Ma, who does not have dental. World 5 overworld was actually bad, like where the hell are the levels? But once you find them, you get an Octo Striker! I love Octo Strikers, I love doing the same mission over and over again! I made it to the final boss, DJ Octavio. He keeps trying to punch you, so you have to deflect his fist back at him. As the fight goes on, the stage becomes smaller and he throws more stuff at you. But the Squid Sisters show up and play music, which doesn't help me at all. I defeat him and get the great Zapfish back, and that's the end of the campaign. That was pathetic. The campaign wasn't special and it just felt like an afterthought. All of the levels felt the same, especially having to fight an Octo Striker 4 times. The only good thing about the campaign were the collectibles and the bosses. If they wanted to improve the campaign, all they need to do is give me more mission variety. Throw in a stealth mission or have me protect a thing, anything other than just get to the next point. But like I said, the campaign felt like an afterthought because the real game was in the multiplayer. Nintendo doesn't like to make multiplayer games, so Splatoon was a multiplayer focused game. You go into the lounge and enter a turf war, a 4v4 mode with your main goal being ink the most turf, not get the most kills, ink the most turf. People struggle with this. You need to use everything at your disposal. Your weapons, your grenades, and your specials. For weapons, you have shooters, which are your typical guns, rollers that let you roll over your enemies, and the best of them all, sloshers. They are just buckets. It's incredible. Each weapon had its own variety, so some shooters can shoot further but slower, while others shoot shorter but quicker. The specials also had a big influence on what weapon you took to a turf war, like Bomb Rush, Bubbler, Echolocator, Inkzooka, Killer Whale, Kraken, and the best of them all, Ink Strike, where you choose where you want it to land on the Wii U gamepad, and it makes a vortex killing anything and leaving a big circle behind. The ink strike is what decided whether or not you won a turf war. Each turf war lasted only 3 minutes, but something I hate about them is that it doesn't matter what you do in the first 2 minutes. All that matters is whether your team is the last one to get to the middle in the final minute. You could be dominating the whole match, but suddenly the enemy gets one good push in the last 10 seconds and they win. It's not a fair scoring system. If you get tired of turf wars, you can always do ranked. Every once in a while, there would be these events called Splatfests, and they were beautiful. There would be 2 teams like cats or dogs, and you would choose what team you wanted to be on. Then you would take part in turf battles at night. Whichever team got more votes and won the most matches would be the winner. It was a lot of fun because it was a big festival. They would only last a couple of days, but it's when most people would play the game. You're gonna have to trust me that it existed. That's all this game has to offer. Just multiplayer and a campaign with no other game modes, but you can buy clothes, so that's cool and that's the end of the game. It's a good start for a new game series, but it's so bare bones. Splatoon is a fun game, but after doing the same battle over and over again, it becomes tiresome. Even in the campaign, you kept doing the same thing. You are able to play with friends, but Nintendo can't even get that right. You can end up on the opposite team as your friends. The maps were all good, nothing too special or bad, but the music was incredible. I can't understand a word they are saying, but they are speaking facts. A lot of people say that it sounds like gurgling piss, so I decided to put that to the test. Drink this.
What is it?
Don't worry about it.
Why is it yellow?
Don't worry about it.
Why is it warm?
It's piss. 2 years later, Nintendo would release the Nintendo Switch. So of course, Splatoon 2 had to be made. Splatoon 2 starts and you're looking a little green. Oh, am I? The game starts and the news still exists and it's still unskippable. I get to Inkopolis Square and there's a new pop duo called Off the Hook with Marino and oh my god, that forehead. The Great Zapfish has been kidnapped again, and Callie from the Squid Sisters is missing. So I go to the campaign and oh hey, it's Marie from the Squid Sisters. Captain Cuttlefish is dead or something with Agent 3, but the Octarians never take a holiday, so I have to fight them again as Agent 4. I go to the first level and it's just go from point A to point B. Yay. There's more stuff to do in between the levels, so that's nice, and there's more collectibles along with the sunken scrolls. Speaking of which, what is the new lore? More x-rays, more religious text, and the Squid Sisters performance when you fought DJ Octavio 2 years ago changed people's lives. The last one is actually important. I will say, the levels are at least a little bit harder. I got to the first boss, the Octo Oven, who tries to hit me with bread. They did bring back fighting Octarians on multiplayer maps, but instead of just getting to their base, there's now mini Zapfish located all throughout the map that you have to find. In order to try and add variety, Sheldon the arms dealer will give you a different weapon to test out so you're no longer just using the hero shot. These add a little challenge that the game needed. I get to the second boss, which is a roller showdown with the Octo Samurai, and it's a great fight. World 3 starts to feel the same, just the level numbers are different. But the boss is the return of the Octo Stomp, now with 3 faces. World 4 is the same, so here's some more lore. The Squid Sisters are famous. Cool! The 4th boss is every melee player's nightmare, the Octo Shower. I learned that Callie is actually working with the Octarians, making her a traitor, and I'm ordered to shoot her on sight. World 5 Overworld is awful to navigate. Like they couldn't just give you ground to walk on. I get to the final boss and DJ Octavio hypnotizes Callie, so that's why she's working with him. It's not like she does much though, it's still the same fight as the last game. Just deflect his fists until Murray comes in and kills Callie. But she lived, so they start singing. I killed DJ Octavio with a Rainmaker, the Great Zapfish is back, and that's the end of the campaign. It's the same, it's boring. It's the same issues that the first game had where all the levels felt the same. There's no different missions, but at least I got to use different weapons.
Multiplayer time.
They brought back Turf War and it's the same, which is a good thing, other than only the last minute mattering in a match. They have the same weapons, but they did add 2 new types. The dualies, where you dual wield, and the umbrellas that behave like a shield. They also replaced every special. Now there are ones like the Inkjet, Stingray, Ink Armor, Bomb Launcher, Inkstorm, Baller, Bubble Blower, Booyah Bomb, Ultrasound, Splashdown, and the most abused one, the Tenta Missiles. I also get to show Yin's ranked mode. Rainmaker is where you get the Rainmaker and attempt to get it onto your opponent's goal. Splat Zone is where you fight over zones. Tower Control is where you ride a tower into the enemy base. And Clam Blitz is where you collect clams on the ground until you have enough to make a football, break their barrier, and throw more clams into said barrier. Yeah, there was only 4 of them, making this a fail team for a moment. Why are you not subscribed yet? The multiplayer is still just as fantastic as the last game, but you run into the issue of getting tired of the same thing over and over. But they did fix this issue by adding a new game mode, Salmon Run. Salmon Run is a horde survival mode where Mr. Grizz, a literal bear statue, hires you and 3 other people to collect salmon eggs because caviar needs to be more expensive. The way you get eggs is by defeating boss salmon and putting their eggs into the basket. You also do not get to choose your weapon. Instead, you will get one of the 4 random weapons, so you need to be a jack of all trades. It's a lot of fun where you go up in rank to 100%. And then go past that where salmonids won't stop harassing you and the boss salmon come in pairs of 3! Salmon Run does give you a nice break from the turf wars, but a downfall it has is that it's only sometimes open. Why not just have it open all the time? What, do the salmons need to sleep? There were Splatfests here again, and it was pretty much the same thing as it was in the last game. Just a beautiful festival every once in a while. After 1 year, Splatoon 2 got its first DLC with the Octo expansion. You go to the subway entrance and you can hear a story play out. I see Captain Cuttlefish breathing over me saying he wants to kill me, but won't because we're both lost, and oh, I'm an Octoling? Maybe I am the bad guy.
Aha, so you admit that you're a criminal.
I didn't do anything!
You made me drink piss.
I want to make it to the surface after hearing the Squid Sisters' performance 2 years ago when they fought DJ Octavio. See, I told you it would be important. The Octolings control just like the Inklings, so you don't have to learn anything different. I talked to a telephone who tells me I am the 10,008th person to attempt to get to the Promised Land. I get a CQ-80, a CQ card, and I get on a train. The conductor, CQ Cumber, tells me that to reach the Promised Land, I need to collect 4 things. I go to the first test and it's a lot like the levels in the campaign, where I go from point A to point B, so that's kinda disappointing. Cuttlefish gets a call and it's Pearl and Marina. They agree to help us as I continue to do tests. I get to the next test and I don't get a weapon, but I get the Inkjet special. So the whole level I need to traverse with just the Inkjet. Another level I don't get a weapon nor a special. I just have to dodge for 30 seconds. They fixed it. It's not just going from A to B. They give you unique challenges. You have challenges like break all of the targets, beat the game with limited ink, and guide an 8-ball, which is awful. But at least they're not the same. There are 10 lines that you can take, with each one having its own difficulty, ranging from, oh yeah, this is easy, to what the hell is this? I get all 4 things, and it looks a little bit like a blender. That's because it is. The phone tries to kill me, but thankfully Agent 3 comes along and saves me. Now I have a chance to climb to the Promised Land. I have to sneak through Octarian defenses, get a weapon, steal a power core, plug it in to get to the elevator to the surface. Too bad the phone took control of Agent 3, so I fought him. The fight consisted of multiple waves that got harder each wave. When I get to the surface, Pearl and Marina come to pick us up, but it's not over yet. The phone has a statue of a human and his job was to find a worthy successor to the humans. but he just hates the Inklings and Octolings, so he plans on destroying the world. The final fight is a turf war, and with the help of bombs, I cover the entire statue, and Pearl does a killer wail to stop the phone. With me beating the Octo expansion, I'm able to play as an Octoling in the regular Splatoon game for the first time, and that's the end of the game. That was so much better than Splatoon 1. Splatoon 2 was able to deliver the charm that the first game had, while adding more modes to keep itself fresh. The multiplayer didn't need to be changed, so they didn't change it. But there was one very important thing they forgot. You are still not guaranteed to be on the same team when you play with friends. Salmon Run was a fantastic addition to the game, but some new outfits would be nice. The campaign needs to be more like the Octo expansion, which showed what DLC should be like. The Octo expansion, I believe, is one of the best DLC to come out because it's just another campaign with so many levels that give you a challenge and a new player model. There is also a secret boss, Inner Agent 3, and it is hard! This was worth fighting him for 5 hours. The outfits and music are still fantastic. The only thing I would improve is being able to play on the same teams as your friends, and make the campaign more like the Octo expansion. Splatoon 2 was a great sequel, and I can't wait for the third one, which should be released on Nintendo's next console. Really? Another one on the Switch? But it's only... oh wow, it's been 5 years. Spoiler alerts because this game just came out. The world has been destroyed, so the phone had a point. I get up and I have a companion with me named Small Fry. I make it to the newest town, Splatsville, with the new idols Deep Cut, featuring Shiver, Big Man, and what the hell's up with foreheads at Nintendo? Would you believe that the Great Sapfish is gone again? I'm sick of having to deal with these Octarians. Cuttlefish recruits me to the new Squidbeak Splatoon, and there's fuzz everywhere. If I touch it, I become hairy and die on the spot. I get to the first level and it's exactly like Splatoon 1 and 2's campaign. Have they learned nothing from the Octo expansion? Whatever, I go from point A to point B, but there's fuzz blocking the way. Luckily, Small Fry can just eat it if I'm rich enough. I keep going until I get to the first boss, DJ Octavio? As the first boss? It's just like his other fights, and after the fight, he tells me that he didn't steal the Great Sapfish. I fall down a hole into a dome and meet up with the new Squidbeak Splatoon, with Callie, Marie, and Captain Person. They told me to find Cuttlefish, so I get to the first level, and it's exactly like the Octo expansion. They actually did it. They made the Splatoon campaign fun.
Hi!
You get levels like going from A to B, or ones that are a challenge, so you get the best of both worlds. There are 6 sites, and not every site has a boss, which I kind of find weird, but every site is filled with so many levels, making the campaign extremely long, but also extremely short. Because you only need to play 2 or 3 levels per site and you can just move on to the next one. You won't be able to upgrade your gear, so you'll be weak, but they give you the freedom to skip levels if you want. I try to get where Cuttlefish might be, but D-Cut stops me because they're the bad guys. Idols being bad? It's more likely than you think. I get to the strong signal and it's Fry. It looks like she's going to use the Octo Stomper, so this should be an easy... Jesus Christ! I have to shoot her eels back at her and I get the first treasure. I just hope it's not a blender this time. The game does something unusual with collectibles, in which none of the levels have collectibles. They're all hidden within the overworld. So what is the new lore? Small Fry can't go home, and that's why he has a big appetite. Marie had a podcast, and that's just a whole squid. I keep playing through levels until I get to Shiver, who rides a shark. I kill the shark and Shiver to get the next piece of treasure. I find Cuttlefish's radio transmission, and I find out the true villain is Mr. Grizz, the boss from Salmon Run, who wants mammals to take over the world again. Of course, the third boss would be Big Man, and he... Oh, Oh,
Zach,
God,
make another Mario video.
I can't escape Mario! I get the final piece of treasure and it's a razor. The captain shaves all of the hair on the rocket ship and I'm on my way to save Cuttlefish. Deep Cut tries to stop me for the treasure, but Marie just gives it to them, so now they work for Marie. I have to use Small Fry because I don't have a weapon, use specials to break through enemy defenses, and collect power orbs to get to the ship. At the oh wow, Mr. Grizz is just a bear. And he killed Captain Cuttlefish! Is that what they look like, dehydrated? But they die in water. What did I stay hydrated with, Fanta? Anyways, Grizz rides a rocket to space powered by the great Zapfish in order to kill all of the Inklings and Octolings. Deep Cut gets me to space to face him. I get the eggs you get from Salmon Run and get Small Fry to eat parts of Grizz until he knocks me off. But DJ Octavio comes to save me. Small Fry transforms into a salmon in order to fight Grizz while I vacuum his weak points. With one final blast, I defeat Mr. Grizz, the great Zapfish is back, and that's the end of the campaign. It is the best campaign that Splatoon has had. The other campaigns suffered from each level being the same, and while some of the levels here do get a little repetitive, there's enough variety to keep you going. This campaign has the most levels than any of the other campaigns, but you don't need to play them all. That's my favorite thing about this campaign. The fact that you don't need to play all of the levels and can just play at your own pace. You do get to use a variety of weapons and specials within the levels. The bosses were also amazing, and it's cool to see you fighting people that you interact with outside of the campaign. I guess I should talk about the multiplayer. Real quick before I get to the actual multiplayer, the overworld is massive. There's multiple levels, places that don't lead anywhere, it's great. And the biggest change is that you could skip the news now. There's a card game. Turf War is still the same, but the maps feel smaller. I feel like I'm getting into the action quicker than in the other games. It's good overall, but the biggest thing they changed is that you're in a training area between matches, so you have something to do instead of just looking at a screen. The area as a whole is great, as is a good training area, but you can also see other players and have your own locker where you can store and show off your equipment, clothing, or an absurd amount of bombs. They added 2 new weapons, the Tri-Stringer, a bow that shoots 3 arrows, and a Splatana Wiper that is the closest thing this game has to a sword. They are both awful compared to the tried and true Bucket. There are also new specials. The Trizuka, the Big Baller, the Zipcaster, the Wave Breaker, the Ink Bag, the Killer Whale 5.1, the Crab Tank, the Reef Slider, Tacticoolie, and the best one, the Triple Ink Strike. It's back, baby! There are still the same 4 ranked modes, but they had some changes, like you only need 8 clamps to make a football and clamplets now, and there's a checkpoint in Rainmaker. The other 2 remain the same. Ranked itself also works differently. There's Series and Open. In Series, Nintendo says it's a best of 5, but it's absolutely not. You need to win 5 matches or lose 3 in order to decide how much you rank up. In Open, you just do 1 match, and that's it. It's more casual than Series. Salmon Run also makes a comeback, and you still work for Mr. Grizz. Everything is pretty much the same, but you can throw eggs now, there are different outfits, they add a new boss salmon, and sometimes an emergency wave will happen, where a king salmon shows up. When he does, you need to use the eggs to defeat him, and that's the end of the game. Everything they've changed in this game makes this the best Splatoon game. Splatoon 3 has so much in terms of quality of life and presentation. The game lets you play the campaign how you want and gives you a training area in between matches. That's the quality of life. The game has emotes now that play after a match in different outfits in Salmon Run that makes it feel more alive. That's the presentation. The music still sounds beautiful, but the greatest thing they changed is that you can play with your friends and will always be on the same team. What they can do to improve this game is more ranked modes, put in a team deathmatch, or honestly, a 100-person turf war would be incredible. There is something bugging me about it. Why did Splatoon 2 take 2 years to be made, while Splatoon 3 took 5? I honestly believe that Nintendo let Hisashi Nogami make Splatoon not knowing if it would succeed, and probably expecting it to fail. When it did succeed, they of course started to make its sequel, but Nintendo came along and told them about their new console and how the next Splatoon game should come out within the console's first year. They didn't fully develop its sequel yet, so they took what they made, called it Splatoon 2, and kept working on what was going to be Splatoon 2, now called Splatoon 3. This would explain why Splatoon 2 feels so similar to the first game, while the third one feels completely different. Now, which one should you get? If you don't have a Splatoon game, get the third one. If you have a friend who you know plays Splatoon, get the one that they have. If you're coming from Splatoon 1, get the third one. If you're coming from Splatoon 2, you don't really need the third one. If I can find matches in Splatoon 1, you can still find matches in Splatoon 2. Splatoon as a series just gets better with every game. I guess the biggest takeaway is that it really sounds like gurgling piss.
Why do you keep talking about piss? Zach, what's your obsession? Like, do you have a Why didn't you piss in a class? You keep doing that. Whatever, I can't take this. I need a drink.